Welcome back to Sonic Adventure. Last time we finished off Amy Rose's campaign, and now we're going to start playing as Big. First though, I want to show off the instructions. For a couple of reasons. One, I haven't shown them off before. Two, it plays that character's theme. We don't really hear Big's theme prior to this, so I decided might as well listen to it for a bit now. And it's actually pretty useful to see the instructions. They give you a couple of tips that are integral to beating the game as Big. For example, the fact that you need to hold down the left stick when you hook a fish in order for it to actually stay on your lure. And the fact that Big fishes in general, his stages are going to be all about fishing. In terms of games that Big has appeared in before this one, this is his first game, along with his froggy friend, Froggy. Froggy is the name. Apparently there's been some sort of a ruckus, and there's a puddle of water that looks a lot like a certain water god demon that we might know about, but Big probably doesn't. So yeah, Big's frog Froggy got hurt by, well, not hurt, but possessed might be the proper word, by chaos. I say Big's frog Froggy, but Froggy's really more of a friend to Big than a pet. And also, Big is kind of a dumb looking, and he also talks kind of dumb too. Nothing against like the voice actor or anything. That's just how the character is. Big is kind of dumb. Well, maybe not dumb. Ignorant, innocent. Those might convey what I mean better. Like, he doesn't know about chaos or anything like that. He doesn't know why his friend grew a tail. And he doesn't know that his lucky charm there was actually one of the Chaos Emeralds. Now we kind of have all emeralds accounted for in terms of all of the stories. Big's story also isn't very, well, I don't want to say it's not important to the game because it kind of is. It's just not as, emphasized as the other characters. For the most part, Big is going to be chasing after his friend Froggy. And a lot of the time, there's going to be cameos, I guess you could say, of other characters during their stories. For example, Sonic and Tails are in that little grassy area where the license ID thing is, so you could get into Speed Highway. Amy is near the casino, and this is actually before her story starts. So, you get to see a bit of the other characters and what they're doing at that point in time. I think Amy says something like, maybe I should go shopping or something like that. So that kind of shows it's before her story, because that's basically what she's doing when her story starts. Speaking of Amy, I didn't say this, but on the instructions menu, just like with the character select menu, the character that you played as last is the person that says, this is how you play, and this is the way to beat a stage. In terms of Big, gameplay-wise, at least in the adventure fields and such, he's not very mobile. His jumps are pretty whack. His running speed is really low. But they don't ask much of you when it comes to playing as Big. For example, all we had to do back there was lift a car, which shows that Big is pretty dang strong. He can also lift boulders and such, and throw them if he so desires. Lifting that car was a bit of an automated thing though, because he kind of lifts it and then walks under it without any player input. As you can see here, we have a pool of water. If we send our lure into that pool, we basically play the waiting game. You can jiggle the stick around in order to attract the attention of any wandering fish. But what you really want is Froggy. I got a random fish here that I did not want. If you do catch a fish, it'll get added to your score. As you can see, there's a weight thing above the ring count with the number 0 in grams next to it. The more fish that you catch, the higher that score will go, and you can get more points as big, but it doesn't really have a purpose until the B and A missions, where I think B is catch like a 1,000 gram fish, and then A is like catch a 3,000 gram fish or something like that, maybe even more. We'll get into how you do that though, probably a lot later. For now, we just have Froggy to deal with. He's pretty easy to attract, you just gotta get the lure in front of him, move it around, and he'll swim toward it. Once he does bite it though, make sure you press down on the left stick, kinda like with Ocarina of Time. I didn't, so I kinda messed up. But luckily I was able to catch him on the turnaround and actually draw him in. When it comes to the actual reeling the fish in, well, Froggy's not a fish, but whatever. If you press the jump button, you'll reel slowly. If you press the action button, you'll reel quickly. Depending on which button you press, the meter will also go up at different intervals. If you're pressing the jump button, it'll go up slowly. If you're pressing the action button, it'll go up quickly. When the meter reaches the top, the line will break. If that happens, I think you lose a life. So don't let that happen. You need to be a bit patient with it, but all in all, it's not going to take a lot of time in order to actually catch Froggy. For example, here it took less than 2.5 minutes, which was around the amount of time I spent here while I was playing as Amy.
Welcome to Twinkle Park.
Big story is going to be a lot of this, though, where we find Froggy in a stage, we reel him in, and then we let him go for some reason. Froggy kind of left without Big's consent, I'll say. And now we have to go find him again. Luckily, the game designers are like, hey, we can make the player go to this stage by putting the key here. Or stone. Underneath here, there is a lure power-up. There are 4 in the entire game, which makes Big have the most upgrades in all of the Sonic characters in this game. Or most upgrades. Did I say more? I might have said more. Anyway, the more lure upgrades you have, the bigger fish you'll be able to catch. Froggy will always be 500 grams though, so you can always get him with the basic lure.
The train headed for the Mystic Ruins will be departing soon.
Now that we have this key here, we can head to the Mystic Ruins and go to Ice Cap. I think this might be after Sonic goes to Ice Cap, which kind of makes it odd as to how the story works. Like, we have 3 separate people with this stone key. Big, who does it after Tails and Sonic. Again though, in terms of gameplay, it's just kind of railroading you, showing you where you need to go. You got the ice key, so you probably have to go to Ice Cap. In here, there is also an upgrade. Well, actually, there are 2. I'll get into the second one a bit later. This first one, though, is pretty important, although not mandatory for completing the game. And it's right here. I like to call this one of Big's actual upgrades, because Seacal comes in and talks to you about it, rather than the text just appearing like, you got a lower power up.
Underwater, press the jump button when afloat.
With this upgrade, the Life Belt, Big can float on the surface of water. He is the only character that can actually swim. Well, Tails kind of can, because he can fly, and if you fly underwater, you're kind of swimming. But a Big can stay on the surface. If you press the jump button while on the surface, you can jump out of the water. If you land back in the water after jumping, though, he'll kind of dip back down in and get pretty low. And as you saw there, Big climbed up that ladder pretty dang fast. Maybe to show that he's strong, I guess. I mean, I did say that he's top heavy, but that must mean he's able to carry his own weight, I'll say. There's this bit of ice that's cracked on the floor. You can throw a boulder at it, or you can jump near it and Big will basically stomp through, and whoa, Big is kind of phasing through the level geometry there. This is where Froggy is. It's pretty close to the entrance of the stage, so it probably won't take you very long to actually catch Froggy. It is kind of hidden, though. My first time, I definitely didn't know that the cracked ice could be broken. I didn't even notice it. And so I didn't know that Froggy was underneath here. Instead, I did all the platforming that's completely optional. Also, this stage houses the second lure upgrade for Big. There are 4 in total, and 3 of them are in adventure fields, but this one's in a stage for some reason. Back to my story. I kind of traveled through the underwater area until I got to here, and I found Froggy, but I couldn't catch him because Big can't fish while underwater. He can do it while out of water and on the surface of it with the life ring, making it a pretty valuable item. You can get pretty close to Froggy and then cast your lure and catch him. But I found him and I pretty much couldn't catch him. So I had to go back around and figure out where exactly I was underneath in the level, and then I could catch him. Big can also attack enemies. You might have seen me swinging the rod earlier. If you tap the square button, Big will just kind of do a vertical swing with his rod, almost as if he's casting the lure, but the lure doesn't actually come out. He can kill enemies, and I guess that's a bit useful, but honestly, there's no real need to kill enemies. In fact, I don't even think Big can, well, I think Big can get through the game without killing any enemies at all. It's just kind of there, I guess, if you want to kill them. And also if you want some animals for the Chow Garden. Although, if you're trying to farm for the Chow Garden, you really shouldn't be playing as Big. You should be playing as Sonic or Tails, because their stages have a lot of badniks that you can beat. Actually, not Sonic and Tails, Sonic and Knuckles. And now we kind of meet up back with Tails, where we encountered him previously, holding Froggy along with the red Chaos Emerald. When Tails crash landed, he found Froggy along with the red Chaos Emerald that Froggy ate, and then he chased him through the sandy surfing area, and he was able to retrieve the red Chaos Emerald. However, he didn't notice that Froggy had ate the yellow Chaos Emerald as well. Tails just kind of found the one and decided to stick it into his plane. That does account for all of the emeralds, though. We have the 6 that Chaos has, and then the 1 that's in Tails' plane, so it's all good. I decide to head over to the maze area because if you noticed in that first cutscene with Big, there was some glowy stuff underneath his bed. If we get back to his house, we can get another upgrade for him. Again, it's not very mandatory. In fact, it's actually quite useless compared to the life belt, but it isn't a lure, and that makes it important. I decide to show a bit of me, well actually I show all of me going to Big's house, because it might be a bit difficult for other people to find it, so I decided I might as well. My idea is just stick to the right, and you'll be able to find it pretty easily. You can also just use the map feature in the DX and further versions. There's also an emblem right here, if you desire to collect all of them. In terms of this version of the game, I don't think they really do anything except for bragging rights. In DX, if you collected all of the emblems, you got a Metal Sonic skin. And every 20 or so emblems, you get a different Sonic Game Gear game. It's like Tails Adventure, Sonic Drift, stuff like that. Was Tails Adventure Game Gear? I think it was. But essentially that made Adventure DX a collection of old Sonic games, which was pretty neat. I think the HD version might have it too if you get the extra DLC for it. But I didn't get it, so I don't have that stuff. I don't even think you could get the Metal Sonic skin. There's another lure in this area. As I said, there's one in each adventure field. And this is where the third upgrade is housed. I'm not exactly sure where it is though. I decided not to find it because in terms of the story, I don't need it. It doesn't make as big a cosmetic change to Big as... well, I said Big a couple times in that sentence. It's not important to me is what I'm trying to say, so I don't get it. What we need to do is head back to Station Square. That's not exactly explicit in terms of, you know, the game telling you that you need to. But you do have T-Cal to tell you where you need to go, so you might as well just talk to her. Big's kind of, you know, he's kind of dumb anyway, so it makes sense for him to need a little bit of help. Heading back to Station Square apparently takes all night because once we get back there, it's the morning. Although when Sonic, as we can see here, Sonic's right there. Sonic, if you talk to him, he says, I gotta chase after Amy or something like that. And I'm pretty sure when he was chasing Amy, it was in the afternoon. Because he was just going through Twinkle Park and that section had like sunset. Excuse me. So, there's a bit of time weirdness. He's chasing after Amy while Big is chasing after Froggy, but Sonic has it where it's evening and Big has it where it's morning. I might be remembering incorrectly though. Maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. Anyway, the next stage that we're going to be doing is Emerald Coast.